Eternal Gamma. All kinds of decay for years to come. Level 174. Eternal Gamma. Survival difficulty. Class Delta. Extremely radioactive, unsecure, strictly uninhabitable. Image caption. Level 174's Mushroom Cloud. Description. Level 174 is a hilly, lifeless desert plagued with lethal amounts of radiation that is sourced from an ever-burning nuclear mushroom cloud. The mushroom cloud appears almost frozen moments after it fireballs, measuring at an approximate 12,000 feet, and it constantly kicks up debris and outputs thermal and nuclear energy. From what can be understood about the areas closest to the blast, mainly using Front Room's information sourced from the computers on Level 4, Abandoned Office, the hypocenter of the blast is presumed to reach temperatures of between 3,000 to 4,000 degrees Celsius. Additionally, again sourced from scientific studies from Earth, standing anywhere within an approximate 3.5 kilometers of the hypocenter can cause extreme skin burns from the large amount of outputted heat, and anywhere within 80.5 kilometers of the blast outputs a near-lethal amount of radiation. Footnote: assuming one isn't within the 3.5 kilometer severe damage zone mentioned prior. End footnote. Away from most harmful effects of Level 174's perpetual nuclear blast is a basic, examinate desert that stretches on for approximately an extra 50 kilometers before one reaches the quote-unquote edges of the level. While there appears to be no distinguishable perimeter for Level 174, it has been frequently documented that going anywhere from 150 kilometers to 175 kilometers away from the quote-unquote safe portion of Level 174, footnote, the quote-unquote safe area denotes any area of Level 178 in which individuals are not subjected to lethal doses of radiation and/or extreme heat. End footnote. Frequently takes individuals to other levels. As such, the barrier in which this occurs has been considered a pseudo-perimeter and should always be what wanderers strive to reach if within the level. The sky of Level 174 is usually a bright orange color, similar to that of a sunset. However, not only are there no celestial bodies in the sky of Level 174, but the actual color of it is also muddied by photography. Due to the way light exposure operates on cameras, when focusing on the mushroom cloud, the sky's color can appear to change from anywhere to a deep blood red to black, which is not an effect of the level's sky. This discoloring from the sheer brightness of the detonation can also affect human eyes, as individuals who have been on Level 174 have noticed the same sky discoloration, or, in worse cases, even partial blindness from looking at the detonation for extended periods of time. Image caption: the tip of the mushroom cloud, obscured by smoke from a defunct base. Scattered across Level 174, mainly within its outer areas, are occasional buildings or other forms of artificial structures that are left in a state of abandonment. As there is no permeating life within this level, the building's only source of decay comes from both the extreme, constant blast from the nuclear explosion, as well as the constant heat and radiation output from the same source. These structures usually resemble rather basic wooden or concrete structures from small towns within the west coast of the United States, particularly those that date back to time periods from as far back as the mid-1800s to as early as the 1950s. Footnote: a broad estimate that is purely speculative. End footnote. How close or far away from the hypocenter of the nuclear explosion a building is dictates its level of decay, although even the ones at the level's perimeter show signs of paint weathering, rust, and sand erosion. Although most buildings resemble simple shops, houses, schools, barns, cabins, or any kind of public building from the aforementioned and real-world geographical location, other more unique buildings can also be found within level 174, such as wind turbines, water towers. Footnote: oftentimes these towers are toppled over onto their sides. End footnote. And power plants for various fossil fuel materials. Due to these buildings possessing decades-old decay, any form of electronics or mechanical systems are completely defunct. They can be reactivated via external generators or mechanical engineering. However, the radiation and sand kicked up by the blast often erodes and breaks away any restoration work. This has been done in the past, both by the Meg and other groups that predate it. However, all attempts at restoration of the buildings, no matter the reason they were being restored, have been discontinued. Bases, outposts, and communities. Image caption: another image of the explosion, this time from extremely high-up drone footage. A rough 70% of level 174's landmass is extremely hazardous to any kind of life and does not permit any kind of long-term residency. This is a fact that has been known ever since level 174's first discovery. Though, attempts to set up bases purely for the sake of research and documentation have existed since as late as last year. Footnote: which, at the time of this article's most recent revision, is 2021. End footnote. These bases were mainly erected between the years of 2017 and 2019, at a time when the Meg was experiencing a sudden rise in numbers, and were designed to study the mechanisms and physics behind how the nuclear blast on level 174 maintains its energy, and why. These bases were scrapped at the mutual agreement of all three overseers in 2020, and all individuals who worked at them have been given aid for whatever burns and radiation damage they may have received at level 174. Meg Outpost, Gamma Investigators. Gamma Investigators was the first successful base built on level 174, as well as the last base to be made defunct in 2020. This outpost was directly built near a two-way entrance that connected to level 170 concrete boxes, and quickly became the main entrance and exit for the level. The base, whilst far outside of the severe damage zone of the nuclear cloud, was unfortunately within the outer perimeter for potential radiation poisoning. As described further on in this article, some entrances to level 174 cause individuals to enter right into the hypocenter of the detonation, which, as one may expect, completely eviscerates any individuals unlucky enough to use them. As such, all individuals who volunteered to go to level 174 were brought through this outpost in order to reach others, as it was one of the few entrances that could be confirmed safe. Footnote: even if other safe entrances were found in subsequent months and years. End footnote. The base itself was built within a derelict school building, which gave more than enough rooms for storage, record-keeping, a main room for the house of the base manager. Footnote: a general position that had just recently been instated. End footnote. And areas for the general workers to commune, eat, and sleep. Given that the Meg still lacks any form of radioactive monitoring equipment, the researchers of the time did all of their research simply by eye, as well as with corroborating evidence from the literature of actual scientists from the front rooms. Despite attempts to make rudimentary hazmat suits out of supplies from other levels, individuals who stayed at Gamma Investigators for long periods of time were recorded as developing symptoms of radiation sickness. Such ailments included fevers, vomiting, a loss of appetite, and many other symptoms coinciding with physical illness that either killed or permanently injured those afflicted. Despite these losses, the influx of new people during the Meg's expansion meant more individuals were signing up to become scouts and investigators for the level. However, after over 40 cases of serious injury or death, the possibility of either closing down bases or attempting to construct more firm hazmat suits was a discussed possibility between both the overseers and underseers, as well as the newfound managerial staff. It was only after the spur decision, footnote, sure, signed S, and footnote, from Overseer C to shut down all of Level 174's bases, which was then corroborated by the other two Overseers not even a month later, that data collection on Level 174 concluded, and the Gamma Investigators base was closed. Upon the base's closure, most paper documents were taken alongside the evacuation of most of the volunteers, though many of these items ended up being held deep inside Level 211, stomach lining, due to worries about the items being contaminated with gamma radiation. Following the base's closure, all investigation of Level 174 was halted, and all known entrances to Level 174 were either haphazardly sealed or clearly signposted to illustrate its danger. Additional content. The expansion of the Meg has been a mixed bag, but at least with the new recording equipment, I could scrounge up this talk I had with Andrew. I know they won't want me to add it, but without it, I worry our group may just sink into the ideals Andrew was wanting to follow with. Consider this a warning to not repeat history. I'm glad I was able to snap Andrew out of what they were doing. From Somalia. Cute face emoticon. Show conversation recording transcript. Begin recording at 10 o'clock p.m. Date 06/06/20. Location: Overseer C's main office within Base Gamma. Note: C Level 3, Electrical Station. Participants: Andrew Donovan, Overseer C, Somalia Hanks. The audio recording begins in the late night, in which Andrew Donovan is sat within his office within Level 3. He looks over a few notes and papers before Somalia Hanks walks in. He looks up at her, giving her a half smile, despite how tiring his work has made him. Andrew Donovan. Oh, Somalia, I didn't expect you. You're awfully far from 11. Note: see Level 11, the Endless City. Somalia Hanks. Well, I figured I'd stop by on a little travel. It's easier to work on database research around here. There's more experts at the larger bases. Andrew Donovan. Right. Andrew Donovan looks at Somalia with a slightly awkward expression, while leaning forwards and resting his lower arms on the desk, covering a few of his papers in the process. Somalia looks down at him with an ounce of suspicion, glancing down momentarily to the papers. Somalia Hanks. So, how have things been here? Andrew Donovan. Oh, you know, usual stuff. A lot more files and forms than I would have liked, but I guess that's the price for growth. Andrew Donovan gives a hearty, yet slightly awkward chuckle, something which Somalia reciprocates, although with more authenticity. Somalia Hanks. Yeah, things are getting bigger now, aren't they? You should see Base Beta. Note: see Level 11, the Endless City. It's just getting bigger. We're almost running out of usable space. Andrew Donovan. They are. I've read all the paper documents for it. I never expected I'd be managing planning permission of all things. It's really tedious. Somalia Hanks. Gosh, I can imagine. Somalia lets out another chuckle, similar to the last one. However, unlike the last chuckle, Somalia's chuckle tapers somewhat awkwardly and fills the room with awkward air before she begins to scoot in and glance down at the papers. Somalia Hanks. Is that what those documents are? Andrew Donovan. Huh? Andrew jumps slightly, looks up at Somalia in surprise, and shakes his head at her, clearing his throat as he brought his arms towards himself, causing the papers to slide closer to himself in the process and audibly crease. Andrew Donovan. No, they're for something else. Somalia Hanks. Oh, really? What is it? I've probably already seen it on the database. I'm just being curious. Andrew Donovan. It's not the most important thing in the world. It's just... Somalia Hanks. Is it BNTG stuff? Andrew Donovan. No, they're not really. Somalia Hanks. Is it maybe UEC things? Andrew Donovan. Huh? No, they barely even do anything. Somalia Hanks. What about EC or the upcoming wall mask experiments? Andrew Donovan. How do you even know about those? Somalia Hanks. I took over from the previous archivist. Note, see person of interest A. River. Years ago. I've got reins to a lot of files and documents. Andrew Donovan. Oh, right. Well, good you know all that stuff then, but these documents aren't anything interesting. It's literally just stuff. Stuff for level 3. Electrical station. Even. It's really uninteresting. Somalia Hanks. Yeah, you can't convince me about that. It's level 174 documents, isn't it? Andrew Donovan. Andrew's head sharply looks up, giving Somalia a deeply confused glance as he contemplates what to say, and deciding to give a simple shake of his head before uttering any words. Andrew Donovan. Nah, I'm not the one working on whatever 174 is, so these documents aren't for that. As I said, it's just level 3 maintenance stuff. Somalia Hanks. Andrew, don't lie to me. I really thought you wouldn't do that when I was making my way up here. Andrew Donovan. Interrogating me about this is the only reason you came to me? Somalia Hanks. Believe me, I would have wanted to be here for a better reason. I miss when we were less spread out. Andrew Donovan. Me too. But, Somalia, these aren't level 174 documents. Somalia Hanks. Stop trying to save your hide, Andrew. Don't lie to me about this. I've seen it on the database. I saw the damn title on your reports the second I sat down. Somalia angrily stood up upon raising her voice, causing Andrew to flinch back in slight surprise as he looks up at her. However, his face quickly turned to one of neutral confusion at Somalia, sitting up a little as he removed his arms from the papers. Andrew Donovan. Okay, fine, yes. It's level 174 documents. Mainly just managing the bases there. And Somalia Hanks. And Andrew Donovan. And managing who's there at what times, as well as speaking to underseers and shit about assigning jobs to people at level 174. Somalia Hanks. I fucking knew it. Andrew Donovan. Then why are you still going on about it? Somalia Hanks. Because I thought you were better, Andrew. Andrew Donovan. Somalia, come on. It's just research. Somalia Hanks. The hell does just research mean? You are aware of where you're sending these people, aren't you? Andrew Donovan. Yeah, of course I am. Somalia Hanks. So why the hell are you letting them go there? Andrew Donovan. Research! As I just said, we have the people. They sign up for it, whilst knowing full well what they're signing up for. And they do work as we ask for. Somalia Hanks. You're sending people to die, Andrew. Those suits aren't protecting anyone nearly enough. Andrew Donovan. People dying out there happens. It's a field investigation, for Christ's sake. Sometimes investigators die. It's been happening ever since the discovery of the Wranglers, and it'll continue to. It happens. Somalia Hank. Not on the level of this, though. Some people who go to level 174 are immediately turned to ash. Not to mention the radiation poisoning. We haven't had one person who stayed in that place long-term come back without some kind of illness. A few people are showing signs of cancer, Andrew. Andrew Donovan. Is that what clued you in to talk to me about this? Somalia Hanks. It's one of the few, Andrew. Everyone who stays in that level is dying. You're just throwing lives away. And for what? Andrew Donovan. to understand more about the level, about what it is, about what it does, and why it is the way that it is. We have the people for it now, especially in the past year or so. What was previously impossible is now, well, our initial goals when starting are finally becoming tangible. Somalia Hanks, you're sending people to die for no reason. That's not the sort of people we are. Andrew Donovan. Somalia, as I said, we're just going to it for Somalia Hanks. No! Don't bullshit me. Stop trying to justify yourself about this. Somalia pauses, looking down at Andrew with a mix of sorrow and bitter anger, which was contrasted by Andrew, who had a mostly defensive and confused expression as he looked up at Somalia from his chair. Somalia Hanks, you can't just kill people like that for research, Andrew. Just because we have the numbers doesn't mean we should. We never should. If we let it happen now, we'll keep doing it forever and ever. Do you really want our group to be soaked with that much blood? Andrew Donovan. Well, eventually I'd stop it, as would Stretch and Kat. Somalia Hanks. You know damn well that if letting people die for science continues, it'll be far too big for you three to contain. You're already destroying families and friend groups in the name of science for a place that's already understood enough. Andrew Donovan. Then what the hell are we meant to do with it? There could be a way to survive it, to utilize it, to harness any part of it. Surely you see that, right? Somalia Hanks. If any of those exist, it's not worth risking lives to find out. Look, I didn't want to fight about this. I didn't even want to bring it up. But it has to end now, or else it'll become what we're known for. Andrew Donovan. You have no idea how hard it'll be to coordinate that. Somalia Hanks. Don't try to find a way out of doing it. You need to pull people out of level 174 as soon as you can. Andrew Donovan. Right. Somalia Hanks. I'm sorry for being stern with you. Andrew Donovan. No, it's okay, Somalia. I understand. I gave you more time of day on this than I would to some nobody. And it's good I did. Thank you. Somalia Hanks. Yeah, well, I knew I'd get to you better than anyone else would. You'll definitely pull people out of 174, won't you? Andrew Donovan. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm gonna. Somalia Hanks. Good. Somalia sighs, glancing over her shoulder to the door, which she slowly begins to walk towards so she can leave Andrew's office. As she got to the door, and indeed, as she began to open it, she stopped and looked over her shoulder at Andrew. Somalia Hanks, you're not gonna do anything like this again, right? You're not just pulling people out of level 174 because I told you to. You're doing it because it's right, correct? Andrew looks at Somalia in surprise, almost unsure what to say. His face is a constantly changing mix between confusion, unsureness, and almost a bit of shock at Somalia even asking. Andrew's lack of a verbal reply just made Somalia hang her head, which she kept as she walked through the door and out of the office, leaving Andrew in solitude. End log at 10:49 p.m. Entrances and exits. Entrances. After all bases within level 174 were abandoned, most known entrances to level 174 were barricaded or appropriately signposted to ensure the safety of wanderers. As not all exits have been barricaded, especially ones that are on levels not currently known to the Meg, it is heavily advised that anyone who finds an entrance to level 174 contact any group to barricade or signpost it as soon as possible. As well as this, certain entrances to level 174 place individuals directly within or nearby the hypocenter of the detonation. The entrances which do this, or occasionally do this, have been separated to ensure that individuals who have to go to level 174 for whatever reason know which ones to use. Frequent hypocenter entrances. Level 155, the Sparkling Maze. No clipping through walls made of the same material as the lines of fire. Level 360, the road of everything and nothing. No clipping into a biohazard or radioactive sign. Level 368, superfluidity, finding a hole within the middle of rooms. Infrequent hypocenter entrances. Level 463, the concrete wastes. No clipping into bright red or bright orange concrete ground. Non-hypocenter entrances. Level 170, concrete boxes, standing within glowing Type 3 concrete boxes. Level 187, nobody's summer, falling through patches of sand that are occasionally placed within fields. Exits. Unlike entrances, Level 174's exits are not signposted to allow wanderers to recognize them. While signposting some of Level 174's exits was discussed as a possibility in case anyone arrived within it, plans to do so were dropped in favor of getting all individuals out of the level as soon as possible. Exits are also rather few and far between in Level 174, often being rather difficult to come by without any kind of diligence. Regardless of that fact, exits out of Level 174 are listed below. Level 140, the Dry Hill, Level 494, Mirror Lake High School, and Level 648, Apocryphal City of Masks. Reaching this level's perimeter. Level 170, Concrete Boxes. Each Type 3 concrete box that acts as an entrance also exists within Level 174 and can be used to exit the level. Level 420, the Frozen Lake, entering a body of water with a nuclear cooling tower in the middle. Level 566, the Factory, entering a factory that has a perimeter of dead grass.